All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna apply all three laws to solve a triangle. Solving triangle means that you're given three pieces of information and you wanna find the other three pieces of information. If you think about how a triangle works, there are three angles and three sides. So if you're given three pieces, you could find the remaining three pieces. Now, depending on those three pieces of information, that will tell you which law to use. So let's do an example first. Let's say that we have a triangle where this is 110 degrees, this is 5, and this is 7. Let's find all of the other pieces of information now. So we're going to have to find, let's call this triangle A, B, C. That means we're looking for side A, we're looking for angle B, and we're looking for angle C. So three pieces of information that we have, three pieces of information that we're looking for. So you can see that we have an included angle. When you have an included angle, law of cosines. So let's write out the law of cosines to solve for the opposite, for the side opposite the included angle, which is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine of a. So a squared equals, in this case, 5 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 5 times 7 times the cosine of 110. These are not special right triangle values, so we're going to round to the nearest hundredth here. So a squared equals, so let's plug this into the calculator just the way it looks if your calculator is in degree mode, 5, 7, 110. So 5 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 5 times 7 times the cosine of 110. Enter. Just remember, this is what a squared equals. And we're going to write 97.94, but we're going to take the square root of the answer. 97.94. So now we'll take the square root of both sides, and we have a equals second square root, second answer, enter. Let's round to the nearest hundredth, 9.90. So this is 9.90. So now what we're going to do, we're going to redraw this triangle and see what we could use now. So let's draw this triangle over again. So now we have a new question. And the new question says that we have 4 pieces of information. And now we want to know what is angle B and what is angle C. A couple ways you go about this now. Let's find angle B first. Call this X. Well, we can set up the law of sines here. So the sine of our unknown over. Then you have to say, well, what goes underneath the sine of X? Well, the sine of X, the opposite side is 7, so the denominator will be 7. Equals sine of 110 over 990. Sorry, 9.9, not 990. Now let's cross multiply. 9.9 times the sine of X equals 7 sine 110. Let's divide by 9.9. Sine of X equals 7 sine 110 over 9.9. So X equals, I'm going to take the inverse sine of this whole thing. Second sine of, and I forgot what we're taking the inverse sine of, 7 sine 110 over 9.9. 7 sine 110 divided by 9.9. Oh, messed up. I forgot to close my parentheses. And I have an extra 1 in there. Notice I forgot to close my parentheses after the sine of 1/10, so I'm still taking the sine of 9.9 as well. It's a division. So second, insert parentheses. Wrong spot. Second, insert parentheses. Sorry about that. And we get 41.64 to the nearest hundred. Was it 41? 41.64. So now we have the measure of this angle. We know that this angle now is 41.64. Now to solve for the other angle measure, it's 180 minus 110 plus 41.64. So 180 minus 151.64, which is 28.36. And there we go. That's how you solve a triangle. Let's say we had other information that was given. Let's work on a different example. Let's say we had 11, 30, x. Well, let's just say 50. And this was all the information that we were given. If this is all the information that's given, well, we have 50, we have 30, which is 80, leaving us with 100 degrees here. So figure not drawing a scale. Let's pretend it's like the SAT. So this is 100 degrees. We found that without any laws because the interior angles of a triangle are supplemental. They add up to 180 degrees. So we found that information with nothing. If without that, we really wouldn't be able to set up anything. Since we have two angle measures, we're forced to use the law of sines. Law of cosine says that you have an included angle or all three sides. So, you know what, let me backtrack, going back to the last example. What I meant to do here was to show you, once we have all three sides, we could have used the law of cosines to solve for this. You could have used the alternate law of cosines to solve for that. So sorry I forgot to explain that, but I prefer using the law of sines anyway. So let's see what would happen if we hadn't found out that this was 100 degrees. We would have the sine of 50 over equals the sine of 30 over. Over what? Over an unknown and over an unknown. So we can't set up the law of sines here. But since we know that this is 100 degrees, now we can set up the law of sines. 100. So now we can say the sine of 50 over x equals the sine of 100 over 11. Now we can find one of our missing information. So let's cross multiply. X times sine of 100 equals 11 times the sine of 50. Let's divide by the sine of 100. So x equals 11 sine 50 over sine 100. So x equals, and then the rest is all calculator work. 11 sine 50, sine 100. 11. Put the pen down. Well, 11 times the sine of 50 divided by the sine of 100. And 8.56. So now we know that this is 8.56. So what we're going to do, we're going to start a new question now. Copy our triangle over. And now we have a triangle in which we know all three angles and we know two of the three sides. A couple ways to go about this. What we're looking for is this. The most direct way, we have an included angle. We can use the law of cosines. Or, we can set up the law of sines. We can set up the law of sines two different ways. Setting up the law of cosines just one way. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine of a. The only way to do it. But if we were to set up the law of sines, one fraction that we must have is the sine of 30 over x. However, we can say the sine of 50 over 8.56, or we can say the sine of 100 over 11. Doesn't matter which one you set up, you're going to end up with the same thing. It's the same ratio. So let's say the sine of 100 over 11. The reason I chose that is because this is information that I found. So there may be rounding errors included if I say 8.56, because it was a little bit more than that. This was an approximation. So I'm going to use given information to determine my missing side if I have the decision. Let's cross multiply. X times the sine 100 equals 11 times sine of 30. So x equals 11 sine 30 over sine 100. Sine 30, sine 100, 11 times the sine of 30, enter, divided by the sine of 100. And you get 5.58. So there we go. When you're done solving a triangle, make sure your picture makes sense. The largest angle should yield the largest side. The smallest angle should yield the smallest side. This does make sense, so we did it correctly. Now, in this way, I set up the law of sine just because it's a little new to us and we were practicing it. I really would have used the law of cosines to solve for this side because there's really no decision, no error to be made. I find that to be the most direct form to use. So if you have the decision, I would prefer to use the law of cosines to find the side.